Hello, my beautiful beings, and welcome to the podcast episode of today. So, this is a head noise episode. I'm doing two parts today to this episode just because you guys have been on one lately, sending in epic questions, voicemails. Like, I've gotten so many voicemails as of late, and I just want to get through as many as possible and answer as many of your questions as possible. And obviously, for your sake, I want to answer your question. But these questions are like they're fucking gold. And I feel like so many people are going through what you're going through, or something similar, or something that my advice could translate across to what they're going through. So, as always, huge appreciation for sending through all the questions. They're amazing. So, this part, we're going to do the emailed in questions. I'm going to be reading out the questions. I've got four. I'm going to try and get through four, maybe three, hopefully four. And then part two, which I will be releasing straight away, is the voicemail questions that have been written in. So, life update, all is well. Life is great. I don't have a pet hate today because I'm just absolutely loving life. So I want to kind of go straight fucking into it. Also, some of your titles for your questions, I like fucking rolling on the floor laughing because we've got, what is wrong with me? Why do my friends annoy me? Hi, Alexis. We're just diving straight in if you haven't yet realized. Hi, Alexis, long-term listener here. Love the podcast and everything you do. So grateful for your guidance. I have a listener question. I have a small friendship group, mostly people I've made friendships with through my ex-partners and new partner. In particular, this year, I've noticed that some of these friends really piss me off for no good reason. For example, they may say something so innocent or matter of fact, and it annoys me. And I think of the reason as to why they're wrong, or how stupid the comment is, or that they're attention seeking. Don't get me wrong, I love my friends, but why do I suddenly feel this way about multiple of them, while other friends I have never felt this way about? I really don't want these things to ruin the friendship, but I can't seem to get over it, work through it, or work out what the underlying issue is. I'm worried that my friends have noticed my change in behavior as well, as I'm a lot more distant, don't ask to do things as much, and I am quite blunt. One of these friends in particular, I would say, was my best friend last year. And now I find it hard to even fake a nice conversation with her without feeling this pissed off feeling. I don't want to feel this way forever, and I don't know what's wrong with me to feel like this. I feel like a terrible person and friend. Help. Okay. Great question. Also, wild that you're going through this. I think that, look, there's a few things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to really, I know you say you can't work out the underlying feeling, but you need to do a little bit of an inventory here. Firstly, when did it start to change? Okay. Like, when was the turning point? Can you pinpoint at what point these people started to annoy you? Then you've got to understand that this frustration, or this, like, you are pissing me off, that is not a normal response to how you feel towards a friend when they say something that you say isn't like a big deal. They might just say, like you literally said in this thing, they may say something so innocent or matter of fact, and it annoys me. I think of the reasons as to why they're wrong, or how stupid their comment is, that they're attention seeking. So there is frustration aimed at them. So you've got to ask yourself, why is this frustration happening? Because that emotion that you're feeling is a secondary response to an underlying thing that has caused this. You are either feeling, and I'm not saying this is what you're feeling, I'm just rattling off a bunch of things. You feel jealous, you feel like it's highlighting something in you, like you're not good enough, or a flaw in you. You feel that you're competing, you feel that they're trying to compete against you. You might feel threatened by them. You feel that they have done something wrong. So there's all these reasons why we would then just immediately get pissed off when someone just starts talking to us. Getting pissed off for no reason, that's not possible. It's not normal. There has to be something that has set this off. Maybe it could be their relationship with each other has made you feel like an outsider, or their relationship with your partner. There's something there, and you need to do some digging, okay? That's the first thing. You have to do some digging, because this is not just going to go away. And the thing is that you're thinking about it more and more. So it's probably going to exacerbate it more and more. It's going to be pissing you off. And because like attracts like, it's going to be blowing up. And then you're anticipating this feeling. Oh, she always annoys me when she says that. She's going to come, she's going to say it. You're going to be even more annoyed. Okay. Now, the beauty of this is that a lot of the times the underlying emotion might actually be quite small. And all it takes is being like, oh, okay, that's what it was. And I was letting this thing brew up inside me. And because I wasn't addressing it, I was lashing out in these ways because it just didn't sit right with me. But now that I'm aware of it and I'm able to either compartmentalize it or justify it, or I'm able to, reason with why that thing happened in the first place, then I'm actually not that pissed off anymore. Okay. Maybe you're annoyed with how they carry themselves because it no longer aligns with how you carry yourself. Maybe you see that they do things in your life that you're like, morally, we're not the same person. So that's why I'm pissed off at you. So you could be saying that's completely irrelevant to the actions that have originally annoyed me, but I'm just pissed off at you in general. Okay. So that's the first thing that I would recommend you do. The next thing that I recommend you do is that you then try to realize, is this friendship something that I'm just outgrowing anyway? Okay. So there might have been things that have caused you to be like, this is annoying, whatever. And because you're trying to force the friendship to stay the same, it is maybe causing you more anger and more animosity towards the friendship because you're like, I'm forcing something that doesn't really exist there anymore. A lot of the time we grow in our separate directions with our friends, but we feel like the friendship has to stay the same. It's kind of like a romantic relationship. Sometimes you're going to grow apart and not one person has done something right or wrong. You are completely in your right to grow. That person is completely in the right not to, but you end up into two completely different places. And that's when a lot of relationships dissolve. And at no fault of anyone. So friendships go through that as well. But because with relationships, it's often very black and white. With a friendship, it's kind of like, yeah, but I can still have you as a friend because I have many friends and it's not an exclusive thing. It's not like all or nothing kind of thing. And then it can cause a lot of like friction or underlying frustration, a lot of tension. So you've got to ask yourself, maybe I need to change what category this friend is. And I've got a whole episode on like friendship categories where there's like good times friends, there's like inner circle friends, whatever. And maybe simply just by changing what this friend represents in your life, you're not going to have so many big emotions towards why you're so angry at them. But I think ultimately you need to kind of look at what is really the underlying cause, because there is an underlying cause. This would not just manifest out of anything, and you've got to go broad with your thinking. Don't be like, oh, they've wronged me, and so think like, do I envy them? Am I annoyed at how they're speaking to people that are close to me? Do I feel left out? Like, just you don't have to admit this to anyone. Just be really honest with yourself. Get to the bottom of like, where are these? Are you hurt? And that's going to really help create a solution for you. Another thing to think about is if you do come up with something, you're like, that's what it was, that's what it is, then you can actually workshop it. Whether you talk to them about it or not, you can workshop it in your head and come up with a solution. Like, oh yeah, I actually did feel left out, but I realized that they're not actually excluding me because of all this evidence. So maybe I can actually like come to terms with it, acknowledge it, and now I can move past that roadblock, that mental block that I had. Hopefully that helped. Because, yeah, that's not a nice feeling to harbor, and that's not going to go away on its own, especially because it's, causing you so much animosity. Okay, the next question is, hi, Alexis. This is all about heartbreak. Absolutely love the pod and everything you do. Dankeschön. My question is, what are your step-by-step processes on overcoming a breakup? Doll, I have so many, so fucking many, especially on where the guy breaks up with you because he needs to work on himself. He also wanted us to work, but can't do both things at once. I know who I am. My situationship, if you could call it that, didn't know who he was, and I could see it for a very long time. It's good that he's choosing himself, even though I'm the exact routine and person he wants to be. He just doesn't want the help. Also, in addition, I have the lows from returning from my Europe trip with my bestie. Then he slept with me and spent the night with me. Next night he had the chat, but still wants us to still be around each other. It's all bad timing for him in his life, but I just can't help but feel broken. How would you jump into this? Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to say to you is you need to go cold turkey. You need to go cold turkey. There are many people out there that go through breakups, and for whatever reason here or there, they can't completely cut this person off. Like they co-parent, for example, or, work situations, whatever. But if you are able to cut the cunt off, okay? Number one, The second thing is don't get fooled with this idea of timing, okay? So many of us, so many years of people's lives, months, weeks, days, years of people's lives have been literally just spent waiting and hoping and being in like denial or being delusional because of this idea of not the right timing, okay? When someone says not the right timing, they are saying no, okay? They just don't want to say it because they're not trying to hurt you. And they might believe it too. I'm not saying that they're outright like just being an asshole, but what you need to interpret is if someone says, oh, the timing's not right, just take it, translate it, put it through fucking Alexis Translate, and it's no, this is not fucking working, okay? That's what you need to do. I'm done with this, oh, the timing's not right. The time is now, okay? That's all you're ever going to have is now. So someone's going through their own emotional journey. There is no end time. We're talking about something they need to discover within themselves. They weren't able to be with you, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. People have their own journeys that they need to go on, so that's okay. And it's not making them a bad person, but for them, wrong timing means it's just not going to happen. And you might come to me and say, yes, well, Alexis, I know people that have broken up, worked on themselves and come back together. Yeah, and I also know 1,000 who have not, okay? So when these couples miraculously, they have their time, it's quote unquote bad timing, they go and find themselves and then they meet together, they're meeting as different people. Okay? Who they show up as the second time around is completely different. So basically, my answer to you is you never wait for the timing to be right. If someone doesn't want to be with you, I don't care how noble the reason is, it's not about hating on them, but if someone doesn't want to be with you because the timing is right, it means they do not want to be with you or they do not have the capacity to be with you. And that is it. That is all the information you can take. You can go and embellish the story as much as you want, or you can bring in every example under the sun as to poor this person and they're not ready for the help, but they need the help and the where, blah, blah, blah. And what have you done? You've wasted a year of your time waiting and trying to justify why the timing may one day be right. It is finished. It's done. The time is now. And if the timing isn't right for them, I genuinely wish you the best, but it's not fucking right for me either. Because the right timing for me is someone who shows up the way I'm willing to show up. If they're not willing to show up, no matter how much I like you, it's not the fucking right timing. There is so much more to a compatible relationship than love. You might love someone, but they're not showing up for you the way you need to. They're not. Relationships, do you know what? You know when people say, oh, relationships are hard work? Bullshit. The relationship is a hard work when it's one fucking sided, when one person's doing all the showing up, when one person's fighting, and the other person isn't. If two people are showing up and want to be there, it's not that hard, okay? It's not that hard. You might find certain things hard within your relationship, like parenting and, mortgage and all that, but the relationship itself doesn't need to be that hard if you're both willing to show up every single day for each other, okay? This is not one of those things, okay? Now, my next thing that I want to say is when someone says to you, the timing's not right, I need to work on myself, but I don't want to call him a cunt, but let's just do it. This cunt, he said, he sleeps with you, he gets his fucking rocks off, love that for him, spends the night with you, he gets someone to cuddle because he doesn't want to be lonely. Next night, he had the chat, but wants us to still be around each other. It's bad timing for him in his life. Ick, gross, yuck, immature, just be an adult or don't, but just don't be around me if that's the case. Because I literally wrote all these notes down. You should see me, I'm glancing at my notes because I'm like, I've just got to refer to them. But for me, if someone says it's bad timing for me, but I still would like to hang around you, they are saying my time is more valuable than your time. My priorities are more important than your priorities. I would never really see you as my equal because I'm only thinking of myself here. I don't care that you're hurt because I'm still willing to have you be around me, knowing you'll be hurt to satisfy my needs because I don't want to be alone, because I don't want to actually face the hard work of what actually needs to go down if I truly wanted to work on myself. If I was right about this, I need to work on myself and things need to change for myself. If that was the case, I would actually be legitimately single. I wouldn't be entertaining myself and pacifying myself with these pseudo relationships that aren't really a thing because I'm not willing to lean in. I'm nor here nor there. But I'm going to prioritize myself and just do what, pleases me in the moment, knowing that it's not what you need. It's not servicing your needs. If anything, it's wasting your time, a commodity you will never get back. But I'm okay with doing that to you. And it's also fucking you around emotionally. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of your emotions, and you're getting sad in the meantime. You literally said, I feel broken. So here is someone who's willing to have you feel broken, fuck around with your time, and you're still like, oh, I really like this person. You've got to find ways to turn yourself off this person. And that is one of the best ways to do it. When you start to realize, intentionally or unintentionally, I don't care. If it means it or not, I don't care. You've got to think, this person, whether they mean it or not, is being so fucking selfish right now. And that is not it for me. I am not here to be with a selfish person. I am not on this earth working my ass off to be the best version of myself to go on and fucking build a life with a selfish person. Whether they mean to or not, it doesn't matter. It's the actions that I'm receiving that I have to pay attention to, not what their deep down intentions are. Okay? Blunt or not, that's how you fucking have to operate. Now, you need to say to yourself, you can never waste your time with someone who has not made it clear that they actually want to be with you. I don't care if they're nice. I don't care if the intentions are there. I don't care if they've gone through a bad time. You can still be empathetic. You can still want the best for them. You can still be like, this is a shame. This is sad. I am heartbroken. You are allowed to be sad. But to waste your time with someone who's made it clear, or who can't make it clear if they want you, but who's made it clear that they're definitely not 100% in, is doing yourself a massive disservice, okay? You've got to choose your hard. The hard thing right now is to go cold turkey, to really logically have all these canceling out statements every time you miss them, to be like, I need to prioritize myself no matter what. The hard of the later, if you choose the easy thing now of I'll hang around him, I'll have these quick fixes, but then I'm really hurting, that hard is that it's going to take you a whole lot longer to get over them. You're wasting so much emotional energy. You are actually hurting your relationship with yourself because you're not prioritizing yourself. You're prioritizing someone who prioritizes their self, right? And then doesn't even prioritize the relationship. It's all him, nothing about you, nothing about the relationship. It's all about him. And you're putting that person up on the pedestal, okay? So the longer you engage in this dynamic, the more it hurts your relationship with yourself, the more it takes you, or the longer it takes you to heal, okay? So if someone isn't clear that they're 100% in and wanting you, that is a no. That is a no. And if you're ever like, I don't know, what should I do? I don't know. You've just got to remind yourself that the time is now. This time right now, you will never get back. You'll be here in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months' time while this cunt is trying to figure his life out, and time is passing you by. Okay? So you have the answer. You now need to decide what you're going to do with that answer. And the answer is no, I'm not going to date you. I'm not available for you emotionally. Okay? So you have your answer. Now, I don't want to be harsh, and I feel like that was a little bit harsh, but sometimes you just need to be fucking slapped around until you have to prioritize yourself, babe. Thank you so much for writing in. I love you so much. Genuinely adore you guys, and I just want the best for you, and sometimes this is how I get it across. This passion is because I care. Okay, next one. Please, just fucking you live your life. Okay, next one. Number 3. Now, this one, it's a short one. I don't have too much to say on it because it is something. Anyway, whatever. It's a short one. Hi, Alexis. I absolutely love your podcast. I first found your podcast when trying to find the strength to leave a toxic and abusive relationship, and it worked. Yes. I am now engaged to a legend of a man and happier than ever. Thrilled about this. I do, although, struggle still with anxiety and depression. My anxiety seems to center around the fear of my parents aging and their death. I find myself having panic attacks around this at night or suddenly during the day. Do you know the science behind this? Are there any ways to cope? I know many people struggle with this, but I find it sometimes taking over my life to the point of freezing and not being able to carry on with day-to-day things. Thank you so much. Okay, that's a really good question. And it's actually death anxiety, which is what it's referred to, which is the anxiety towards either your own death, the process of your own death, and also the death of other people close to you. So that's death anxiety. It's also known as thanatophobia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, but it's a phobia, and it is linked to panic disorders, anxiety disorders, other phobias as well, and depression. So you did mention that you do struggle with, or that you struggle with anxiety and depression. And so often you'll find that people that do have death anxiety, also that comes along with other forms of anxiety and depression or other mood disorders and other phobias, okay? Now, the reason why I can't delve too much into this, because it is one of those things that if you find, and I feel that for you this is the case, that it is actually debilitating at times, like it's stopping you from doing day-to-day things, you're waking up at night, you're feeling a massive sense of panic, then really what needs to be done is you need to be going through a therapy process. And in therapy, there's cognitive behavioral techniques, but it's very specific to what it is that you personally are experiencing in it, because everyone might have different specific narratives that they're playing through their mind when they're fearing this, when they're having this phobia of this death or this, your parents' death. And on top of that, they may couple that therapy with medication. And it's not necessarily a long-term thing, but it's coupled with, a medication, so you can start to like work through your cognitive behavioral therapy while you're on medication. So you've kind of like taken the edge of the intensity of what you're experiencing. And then once you kind of like gain the tools mentally, then you can come off that medication and you kind of train yourself up. So depending on the individual will depend on what kind of therapy will be given for this death anxiety. Now, papers have been published. There's one, I can't remember the name of it, but one in 2014 that came out. And it was around people who, the more you work on your self-esteem, your personal fulfillment, like feeling like you have a rich life, a fulfilled life, like you're doing the most with your time, you're less likely to for it to get worse, and you're more likely for you to be able to improve out of this death anxiety, because you're putting a lot of effort into really maximizing your life, even if it's not around your own death. It's this idea of understanding that when you really maximize your time and you've got great community and great relationships, and you're able to put your energy into that, you have a healthy relationship with this concept that we are all mortal. Now, I do want you to understand that I think most people, if they were to sit and really contemplate, like if I was to sit and really contemplate the death of the people close to me, I could get myself in a terrible, terrible state. So I do want you to realize that the link between our emotional states and really thinking about that would be strong for most people. That's not, but for you, this is cropping up all the time, and it's something that's kind of like haunting you, and that's what you want to be working through. So unfortunately, I can't give you a step-by-step thing because this is more individual based, but it is something that therapy can really, really go a long way in helping you. But look up thanatophobia, read into it, but don't spend all your time reading into it. I think a lot of people become an expert on a condition that they have, but they then don't know how to actually apply the treatment to themselves. So this is something that therapy will go a long way in helping you with. Okay, we have one last question. Hi, Alexis. I've been listening to your podcast for a while and I love all your advice and guidance. I'm 24, I'm an art teacher, and I find myself being too focused on my career. I love what I do, but I'm struggling socially. I recently lost a longtime friend of 11 years. I have always had a small bubble, and she was my go-to friend for so long. But every time I was around her, she made me feel bad for where I am at. She made me feel bad for where I am at in life. She is married. I still live at home, and I'm happily single with no intention of getting into a relationship, and she judges me for that. On my birthday, she got very mad at me for how I was acting, in brackets, having fun and dancing, close bracket. So I drew the line and stopped contacting her. It's been 3 months since we last talked because I stopped contacting her. Should I try to rekindle this relationship if she constantly puts me down? I struggle to find new friends, and the friends group I have has not been inviting me out anymore, and I don't know why. I have been single a year and starting to feel lonely, but do not want a relationship, just a solid group of friends, but it is hard to find. I would appreciate any advice you have. Thank you. Okay, so to answer this question, there's a few things that I'm going to ask you. Now, with no disrespect, when it comes to friendship breakups, now you might genuinely be 100% innocent in all of this and someone's just been like a bit of a fuckwit to you, and that's fine. But it is very healthy and important to do this exercise at least. And you might come being like, no, I did nothing wrong, it's all good. But you need to check yourself hard, okay? Ask yourself, and this is not as like a self-critical thing to spiral. You're going to look at it bluntly. Ask yourself, was there any potential thing that I did that could have hurt my friend? Because you said in this thing, she got very mad at me for how I was acting. And you said having fun and dancing. I feel like there's more behind that. And it's not to say that it was intentional, but were you ignoring her? Was she trying to have an interaction with you and you were brushing her off? Were you potentially being obnoxious? Do you know what I mean? I think it's very easy to, and I'm not saying this is you. I just want to say this just as like a blanket statement to everyone that's listening. It's really easy to be like, well, I was in my world and I was doing all the right thing because we're so in our zone, but we don't realize that maybe there was something where we ignored them, where we didn't realize that maybe they had needs that we didn't cater to, where we like completely were acting in a way that either annoyed them or hurt them or whatever. And then we act like, well, what did I do wrong? I did nothing wrong, without ever looking at our behavior. So just number one, do that exercise of just look at your behavior. You might be like, no, literally, I was just dancing and they blew up, which is fine, okay? But it helps to do that. The next thing is to ask yourself, putting her aside for 1 second, why genuinely do you think that your group of friends have stopped inviting you out? Is it that could you be reading into it in the sense of like normally you're the one that invites people out and they're just used to you inviting them out and they're just waiting for you to invite them out because they're a bit lazy on comms to invite you out? Is it that they've always like consistently organized things and now they've made it very clear that they're excluding you from it? So what is this dynamic? Firstly, identify what the dynamic is. If it is very much like, no, they're fully not inviting me, are they also friends with this friend who you had a falling out with and maybe they feel uncomfortable to invite you, so they just don't? Maybe they feel like, well, she's going to be here and, you know, we can't bring everyone together, so they're just kind of like, I'm not getting involved kind of energy. Another thing is, have you actively tried to reach out to them and during this active reaching out, they've fully brushed you? Put a pause on that. Now let's look at your friend. You say, should I be reaching out to try and rekindle things when someone makes me feel so shit? Or your question was, should I try and rekindle this relationship if she constantly puts me down? I would never advise someone to rekindle a relationship if someone is constantly putting you down. I would never say, yeah, go, absolutely, you should. Instead, I would ask you, why do you feel like you should be rekindling? You wouldn't have asked that question if there wasn't a part of you that thought, maybe I want to be rekindling this relationship. Have you in the past, now this is where it gets a little bit deeper. Firstly, number one, how much do you value this friendship? Put aside how she's behaving lately. Just in general, how much do you value this friendship and how much would it matter to you having her back in your life if things were obviously good again? How much would it matter to you if she was never back in your life again? Okay, so that's the first thing. Like, where's the value here? Does she still provide some level of value, or is it 100% she's always putting you down and you actually get no value? You got to get really clear on that. Then you have to ask yourself, how did we communicate prior to this whole thing dissolving 3 months ago? Did we have a good way of explaining to each other when we were hurt? Or is it kind of brush it, we were never able to have the hard conversations and then we just like, it'd be fine, and then one day it just kind of blew up and you stopped contacting each other? How did you in the past repair if something ever went wrong? Was there ever a time where you had to apologize or where she had to apologize? And how did that repair take place? I can tell you right now, so many friends consider themselves really good friends, best friends, but they've never really had the hard talk and the need to repair, the need to apologize or the need to forgive, the need to understand, the need to move past something that they can't forgive. A lot of friends are like, we're best friends until it's a hard moment. And then they're like, well, now I've cut them out because of this. So the only way I would recommend you rekindling, if you said to me, no, I communicated what had happened. I tried to give her an open platform to talk. She completely brushed me. She said she didn't agree with my life. She said this, she said that. And then I made my decision based on her behavior that I'm not going to talk to her anymore. But what I get is that you seem to have had a bad situation go down and you've kind of just cut her out. Which is fine if it's been like a repeated thing that you've spoken about in the past, like, just because I don't live a life that you agree with. And the reason I'm saying this is because you've been best friends for 11 years. I find it hard that you would entertain a friendship on someone that just does not agree how you live your life, does not this, disrespects you, whatever. It just kind of doesn't make sense if it was always like that. So obviously there's been a lot of good if this person's going to have been your friend for a long time. Now, as far as her judging you and this and that, that's personal. That's something that you guys deal with of like, do I even want to be friends with someone who doesn't see how I live my life? Maybe she's just hurt because she doesn't feel there's a lot going on there. But until you've had a conversation being like, do you feel hurt by me? If so, why? So I can get to the bottom of it. And if it's something I can fix, I will try. If it's something that's irrational, I'll at least try and explain myself or not. Because without the conversation, I can't tell you if it's worth resurrecting this friendship from the dead or not. So if you say, we've never repaired, we've never really communicated, we've never been vulnerable with each other, then I would say, yeah, it is worth reaching out and saying, hey, things haven't been great lately, but I would like to give this friendship one big chance. I want you to tell me where you've been hurt by me, and I want you to give me the space to do the same and open up to you. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to repair? And if the answer is no, then you've literally lost nothing because the friendship was already, you had dismissed it as dead anyway. That's personally what I would do. And as far as her not agreeing with how you live your life, that's a conversation. I think sometimes we cut people out just because we disagree with them, but sometimes it goes deeper than that. Maybe it's that she disagrees with how you live your life because she wants the best for you and she genuinely thinks that you'd be happier elsewhere. Maybe that's just a conversation that needs to be had. Like, we don't have to agree in order to acknowledge what makes each other happy, all these things. Okay. So I think you need a lot of self-awareness. You need a lot of like patience and understanding, and allowing someone to bring up your flaws just because you're annoyed at them. Allow them to be annoyed at you and be willing to have that hard conversation. And if all of this is making you cringe at being like, absolutely not, then no, I don't think it's worth you reaching out to her, because when you have a conversation, you've got to be willing for it to be a two-way street. All right. That is all for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I love doing the listener questions. I fucking love doing the listener questions. Thank you for sending them in. If you do want to send in your question, write into info@dyfmpod.com. Or the next episode is going to be all the audio messages, and you just go onto www.dearwifeandpod.com and you can actually submit an audio file of your stunning voice to the podcast. Guys, love you so much. As always, remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to your brain. Don't take shit from anyone, and especially don't take shit from yourself, doggo.